Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Revere City Council meeting today, October 28th. Would you all please rise and help me join me in saluting the flag of our country? I pledge allegiance to our flag. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Rigo is absent. Councilor Correggio?
Here.
Here. Councilor Gino? Here. Here. Councilor Guanasso?
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas? Here. Here. Councilor Patch? Here. Here. Councilor Penta?
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers?
Here.
Here. Councilor Reardon?
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambudo is absent. Council President Novoselsky? Here. Here. A quorum is present. Approval of the journal of the meeting of October 7th, 2013.
Are there any corrections or omissions? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, all opposed to accept? Vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 1, certificates of commendation will be awarded to the Revere Little League White Sox for back-to-back championship seasons in 2012 and 2013.
Are the kids here? They're all downstairs? Well, let's move everything downstairs then. Could somebody get the kids up, please? Okay, so we'll move on to number 2.
Calendar item number 2, certificates of appreciation will be awarded to Reverend Nicholas G. Granitsas, James D. Gustafson, and Wendy Bauer for the First Congregational Church Food Pantry for their services to the needy residents of Revere.
Councilor Zambudo.
This is one of the occasions that, sometimes we have to take tough votes up here. Sometimes we get the benefit of recognizing people for doing good work. And especially this case, this is even more than just giving out a certificate, because these people are doing God's work, I believe. This is the 30th, I believe, the 30th anniversary of the food pantry. Now, those of you who don't know that the food pantry, the corner of School Street and Beach Street, I think is it 500 or 600 families a month?
Yep.
Well, let's take a guesstimate and say it's 600 needy families a month that get helped by these people, and it's every week. People are out there really in need to get food. And so I can't think of a better group of people to honor than these 3 people here tonight. And I'm going to let the council president read the certificates, but it is truly my honor to be recognizing these wonderful individuals.
Okay.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll do ladies first, of course. And this is a certificate of commendation in grateful appreciation of the exceptional contribution made by the First Congregational Church Food Pantry to serve needy families and individuals throughout the community, and in recognition of the food pantry's 30th anniversary of operations. Special recognition is hereby accorded to Wendy E. Bauer. This certificate of commendation is presented by the City Council of the City of Revere on behalf of its citizens this 28th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2013, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 237th. And it's signed by Ashley Melnick, our city clerk, and myself, Ira Novoselsky, council president, and offered by Councilor Anthony Zambuto. So this is for you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And we'll do Jim next. And same wording, and we're presenting this to James D. Gustafson, and we congratulate him and offer this to him. All right. Last but not least, our fake Nick, come on up for a second. Come up close. And again, it's the same wording, and Nick's been around for a long time. You know, I remember back in 1976, I think when you took over.
74.
74, okay. It was a few years before I first got on the city council. So, and I know Nick's been very active in the city, and he's done a lot for the city and for all the diverse people that are in the city of Revere. So with that, Nick, I'd like to present this to you and congratulate
Thank
you
you so much. Thank you.
and the team. Good job. You want to take
One more second.
Just one more second. I have to be perfectly honest, as I try to always be. This presentation has more than one reason. Of course, it's to recognize these wonderful people, but it's also to educate people about the food bank and that they need help at the food bank. Donations, money's always good, but food is good too. And I'll let Nick go on. And so we're also promoting the food bank here tonight. So I hope everybody out there watching knows that this wonderful organization needs your help.
Thank you very much. It's quite a great honor tonight. I'm not the one that's in the trenches. It's Wendy and Dana and various other people that are working there every week. We started back in 1983. The churches got together in Revere. We tried to organize a community-wide food bank, and we were having trouble organizationally getting it together. So we said, well, we'll start it if you all will support this thing. 30 years later, it's still going on. St. Anthony's Church every year has the North Shore Philharmonic Beautiful Christmas celebration. And what is the admission charge? Food for the food pantry. The postal carriers have the drive every year. Where does the food go? To the food pantry. The Rotary Club just gave us a wonderful commercial freezer and refrigerator for the food pantry. School groups have food drives for the food pantry. The different churches, the volunteers come from the different churches that make this work. It really is a wonderful community-wide effort. So I really wanted to make sure everybody knows that. It's just great. It's all the different churches working together, many different people, community groups working together, and it's a wonderful thing to see. People don't understand all the time the good things going on in Revere. There are many good things. And as was said, you know, we always do need help. We always do need help. We always have needs, and especially the holiday seasons coming along, we do a distribution for Thanksgiving with turkeys and Christmas special distribution, and we need a lot of help. So we might very much appreciate any help that's given, but so much help has already been given, and we thank everybody for all they do. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Photo up. Get the photo up.
Let's get you in the middle here.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, good.
Thank you so much.
Go this way,
Thanks
maybe.
for all you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ira.
And thank you. Thanks. Good job. Thanks for your help.
No problem. We're here to work together.
Calendar item number 3, certificates of appreciation will be awarded to the Beachmont Improvement Committee for their beautification and upkeep of Cummings Park, Kimberly Park, and Donnelly Square.
Ladies and gentlemen, come right up, please. Bring the whole crew up. We'll mention. Come on up, come right up.
Put a chair down there.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a crew behind me, and in every part of the city, you look forward to having neighbors working together to beautify their neighborhood and to make things look good. As Councilor Haas breaks the house apart. And when we lost Councilor Kimberly, I had put the motion in the name Kimberly Park, we're in Donnelly Square, after the councilor. And I know everybody started working on Cummings Park up by was it Brad Street? Crescent Ave. And I know during that period of time that we lost Jimmy, they had nobody to go to. And I have to say, I'm glad that I got to work with a lot of the folks here. When they needed something, they would call me, being in the next neighborhood down the road. So it was happy for me to do that for them and to know that they had somebody on the city council that would support them and do things for them as it is. And they worked very hard to put the Beachmont Improvement Committee together. And I congratulate all of you. I know we have the Revere Beautification Committee floating around the city, but you took care of your neighborhood. And what I want to do now, the reason I put the motion in is because we kind of didn't want to embarrass Council Penta because he's on the committee also, and he worked just as hard with everybody there today, and they felt it making it a little more comfortable by having somebody else put it in rather than putting it in for himself. So before we pass out the certificates and call in the folks, I'm going to ask Councilor Penta to say his piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And I see the certificates here. Good thing I didn't write them, and I'll make my speech a little shorter because we'll make the Red Sox games. But if I said what I really want to say about this group, we'd be here all night. But with that being said, this group started several years ago, many years ago, before the Kimberly Park was even thought of. Basically, it started with Cummings Park. That park, people don't realize, and I don't think this group realized how much time and effort it took. The money, you're talking probably close to $100,000 put in that park. A lot of it raised by this group. Started off with a reunion that you couldn't get a ticket for. I mean, over 500 people, they had to shut the tickets off. But the dedication that they put into the area, I mean, the 3, 4, 5 generations of Beachmont people and Ward 1 people. I can't ask for a better group to, that I represent. They make my job look easy. And, we work together. We do work together. I try to make as many meetings as I can make. And it's a good working relationship. But I can't say enough about it. I really couldn't. I could be here all night, like I said. I know a lot of people want to watch the Red Sox game. So I'm going to leave it at that because they do deserve, trust me, a lot of recognition. They're there on an everyday basis. It's not just the Cummings Park, Kimberly Park, Donnelly Square. It's everything. They're involved in every little thing there is to pick the phone up for no matter what it is. And if they can do it, they do it without even calling before. Then they may ask the city to help out if they can't. But like I said, I can't say enough for them. I actually, they're an extended family of mine. Believe me, when you mentioned Kimberly's name, I didn't think I was going to make the speech, but he's the dearest to my heart. But I just want to thank every one of you, each and every one is what you do, and you make the city a better city for it. Thank you very much.
Can I just do something?
Right after we do this. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to do the certificates. I'll read the first one. And there's a certificate of appreciation, an acknowledgement of the outstanding community service you provide as a member of the Beachmont Improvement Committee for your hard work and dedication in restoring and maintaining Cummings Park, Kimberly Park, and Donnelly Square. Special recognition is hereby accorded to, and I'm going to call on the first one, Tom Wilson. This certificate is a certificate of appreciation is presented by the Revere City Council on behalf of its citizens this 28th day of October in the year of Lord 2013, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 237th. And it's signed by Ashley Melnick, City Clerk, Ira Novoselsky, Council President, and a motion offered by Councilor Novoselsky and Councilor Penta. So, Tom, where are you? There you go, thank you. And next we have Christine Anderson.
Yeah, thank you.
Jimmy Mercurio, not here. Miss Ty. You know, Miss Ty. You can tell we go way back.
Way back.
I won't say how far back. Tom Turner. Not here. Rita Turner. Yeah, yes. Bill Terrell. There you go. Thank you. Lenny Piazza. Congratulations. Debbie McCatton. Kim Lyons. There you go, Kim. Kathleen Heiser. There you go. Nancy Dowd. Not here. Connie DeVoe. Corrine, I'm sorry. Therese Montesoro. There you go. Congratulations. Mary Turner. There you go. Good job. Ed DeVoe. You here? I didn't know you were here. In the back. Nicole. Not home. We'll give you that one. I think you know her to take it home? Yeah. Okay. Now, I believe we got everybody. You didn't miss anybody? Just one. You got me. I got you. Joanne, save the president for last. Joanne, I know you worked hard in this. I guess they were calling you the Maven of Beachmont at the event we had in the dedication, and I know you've put a lot of heart and soul into this, and you have a memory of Beachmont like Carol Ty.
Yes.
And so with that, president of the
Thank you.
of the organization, Joanne McKenna.
Thank
And
you very
Thank
much.
you all, and I know Joanne's going to have to say a few words. You take all those. So, where are you, Joanne?
So I just wanted to say, we have a certification of appreciation for Richard Penta. Richard Penta comes to all our meetings, every monthly meetings, and he tells us what's happening in Beachmont, and we give him problems, and he solves them. So he's been a great asset to the Beachmont Improvement Committee, and I would like to give this award to Richard Penta. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything.
Okay, photo op. Everybody in? Gonna get everybody? Okay, make like you really like them, If the councilors would take their seats, please. We're going to hold off on the next presentation. They're not ready yet, so we'll conduct some business while we're waiting. Councilors, we're going to conduct some business before we go into next. Councilor Correggio, take your seat, please. We'll just go right on to the next one.
Calendar item number 4, hearing called is ordered upon an ordinance further amending the zoning map of the city of Revere by rezoning certain parcels on Pratt Street, Green Street, and Revere Beach Parkway from RB to TED.
Okay, can we have proponents? Councilor, name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Joseph Cottogio, 1 Sprague Street, Revere, representing Parkway Mobile Homes, LLC, owner of the formerly leased trailer park. The applicant. Okay. Applicant before you seeking to amend the zoning of the designated lots from its present zoning of RB to a TED designation. The applicant purchased the property a little over 4 years ago, and in that time has worked closely with the city and the state on issues of cleanup, water line improvement, occupancy increase, safety, and in continuing to work with the city, it was determined that this would be a very prime area for such a change in zoning, so that both the applicant and the city would have some flexibility on future development. The application I can represent to this council comes with no pending proposal. There is nothing before, no offer has been made, no designation has been made for any change of use at this time. We're just doing it because it is a good time to effect the change, but at this time there is no proposed change in use. I can also represent to this council that there are state requirements whenever there are change of use in such an area, trailer park, mobile home area, that requires notice, designation of time, opportunity for residents. We have not hit that stage because, again, there is no proposal made. We are working with the city designated, or members of the planning board, site plan review, have worked to put this together with us. We will continue to work with them. We look forward to working with the zoning subcommittee, answering any questions, making any changes or amendments or tweaks to the application that the council subcommittee or the planning board or any site plan review would require. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer any questions tonight or anything in the future, and we'd ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents? Please approach the microphone and name and address for the record, please.
Elaine Angelotti, 417 Revere Beach Parkway. I live on Revere Beach Parkway, directly across from the trailer park. I am against the request by Mr. Sedapane to change the zoning from general residence to technology district. When I was 5 years old, I lived in the West End of Boston, in one of the 2 properties that my grandparents owned when the new development of the West End began. Each area had to leave by a certain date, whether you have somewhere else to live or not. My parents and grandparents went to live with my aunts and uncles. My grandparents received a small amount for their property. After living there all their lives, my grandparents died of broken hearts 2 years later. It was so traumatic to me that it stayed in my mind, and it is the only thing I can remember as a child. Now, as a senior citizen, it is happening again. Mr. Sedapane, owner of the trailer park, now sees an opportunity to sell to a hotel for a profit of 4 to 5 times more than what he paid for it, and not caring about the hardship we who live in this area will face. I've lived in Revere for 16 years, and I plan to die here. I love where I live. I have a beautiful view of the Boston skyline, the Madonna Shrine in East Boston, and most of East Boston, and I have constant direct sunlight. With a hotel across from me, I will lose all of that and more than likely my property. No one in Revere will be hurt with the development of Suffolk Downs and this so-called hotel, but we who live on the parkway across from Suffolk Downs and the trailer park. There will be constant construction with trucks day and night, and when all is said and done, we will have horrendous traffic on the parkway 24/7. We, the residents, were we ever considered in this planning? We who live in this area deserve much better. If this zoning change is granted, it only makes me believe that we who live in this area do not count as residents of Revere, never did and never will. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other opponents? You want to say something, ma'am? Name and address for the record, please.
Cynthia Goodrich, 16 Pratt Street. I have lived at 16 Pratt Street since 1957. My grandparents bought the house in 1924. Since then, we have seen the trailer park go through many changes, and this last change since Seti Payne bought it has been nothing but downhill. It's occupied by alcoholics, junkies, drug dealers, who the police have chased through my backyard, my neighbor's backyard, on 2 separate occasions in the last year. He has done nothing what he promised that he would do regarding cleaning up the trailer park, getting rid of the riffraff, making it safe for not only the people in the trailer park, but the people in Pratt Street and Green Street. My street is nothing but a racetrack for the punks that live down in the trailer park, live on Pratt Court. All they have to do is go up their street and they can get onto the parkway. No, they come down very quietly, they hit the corner by my house, and then they just gun their engines. You know, they're the ones with no mufflers. You see them in that Fast and Furious, and they just roar up it. I have a depression in front of my house that I have asked several times to be filled. It never has been. They hit that. My whole house shakes. I can see no reason to make that technology. It's residential, period. If they do, and they put in a hotel there, then I hope that they make my street a dead end, because I will throw out stuff to block traffic if they put a hotel in there. I'm not going to have my street used as an entrance to a hotel built on their property when they have their own entrance. I mean, I see no reason for it. To me, a hotel is a residential. Condos, they're residential. To me, technology means they're going to put in manufacturing or something like that. No. We've lived in this area too long, and that trailer park has done nothing but bring it down since he bought it. And I mean, it wasn't that great before, but when Mr. Lee owned it, it was a wonderful, beautiful place. Nice people lived there. You had no trouble. Anyone gave trouble, Mr. Lee would kick them out. Mr. McKenzie, when Mr. Lee died, he did the same. Then his son and then his daughter took it over. And that's when it started going downhill. Now with Mr. Seti Payne, it has really gone down the crapper. I mean, unless he wants to clean up the trailer park like he said he was going to do when he bought it, I don't think he needs to make it technology.
Are there any other opponents? Anybody else want to say something, ma'am? Name and address for the record, please.
Alice Sanzione, 7 Pratt Street. What does technology transfer mean to residents of Pratt and Green Street? We're not informed what that means. What we just heard from one of the residents across the street is that it's going to hurt us. Can you explain to us what that means for us? Are we going to be kicked out, or, I mean, What is that? What exactly is the definition? I called around and I talked to many Revere, departments, and nobody could tell me what that exactly means. I want to know exactly what that means and what the legal implications are.
Okay. If I may, councilors, technology was a district put together so they could put technology in it, but it doesn't necessarily have to go in that particular block. It's a huge area. Like this side of the room could be technology, this side of the room could be residential. So they could put specific uses. Doesn't necessarily have to be technology. It could be a hotel like is maybe going to be put in there. It could be a hospital could be put in a technology area. That's just a few of the uses that that I can think of right now. But it just allow a different type of use in that particular area. Now, whether or not you would have to move, that's, they need certain space to put in a hotel. If your house is in that particular area, I don't believe they can move you out because they can't take it by eminent domain because it's not by city purpose, a public purpose. It's a private purpose. The only way you would have to leave is if they bought your house. They'd have to buy your house, give you a good deal. If you want to buy, sell it, you sell it. That's the only way they could do it. Unless there's some other legal way that I don't know about. But that's just an overview of what it is. All they're doing is changing the zoning. As the councilor said before, they're not changing the use right now. They're only looking for the future to see what they can put in there. So it's going to stay a trailer park for now. We have no clue. We have no clue what the design's going to be yet. It's only a pie in the sky right now.
So what is the benefit for us, the residents, to rezone it?
It really isn't. It's more benefit for the person that owns that particular area. Now this is going to go into committee, and Councilor Reardon will be leading that committee, and we'll make sure that you folks get notified when they have these committee meetings so you can have some input and ask more questions. Right now, we're not in really a question and answer mode. But, I would encourage you to look out for that meeting and come to it with Councilor Reardon leading it. And then you can ask any questions you want, your concerns, anything. Traffic, what they're going to put in there. And again, they don't even know yet. They think right now. So, right now, again, we're not in a question and answer mode. I just happen to want to explain what the technology district is.
And where is it? Is it in some zone book or Revere?
Technology is. What you do is contact our city clerk in the office downstairs.
I did, and nobody would tell me what it is. I've been transferred to different departments.
I'll give you a number to call, 781-286-8160, and ask for the city clerk specifically. Don't talk to anybody else. Talk to her. And she will give you any answers you may want to know in the meantime. Okay? So with that, are there any other opponents? Any other opponents? Any other opponents? Hearing or seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Now, I want to remind our councilors it is going into committee, and if you want to say something now, so be it. I will allow. But other than that, no other comments? It will now go into zoning subcommittee. We're just going to check and see if the kids are ready for us. Council Guanasso. It's not. Who is? Council Powers. It's right here. Sorry about that. It's all yours, John. You know that lady up there?
Where am I?
Good evening. Many times you come to a city council meeting as a councilor, and sometimes they become contentious and even unpleasant sometimes. But this is one of the most rewarding experiences that you have as a city council. I know that I have, being to recognize a group of people, in this case, a group of youngsters who have made a significant achievement in their early life. These young individuals, and this is the second year they've won the championship, Little League, and I felt it incumbent upon myself not only to recognize them, but also the coaches, and just as importantly, the parents who nurture these children on a daily basis. So with that said, I'd like to present the children with the certificates, if the council president will assist me in that.
Anything you want, Council.
And then we'll have the coach say a few words. Okay, and I believe we have them for the coaches too.
Yeah, whatever's in here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Do you want to read the certificate? I don't have my glasses. Go
You
ahead.
don't have your glasses. Okay. Again, a certificate of appreciation, an acknowledgement of your extraordinary athletic achievement accomplished through perseverance, teamwork, and discipline as a member of the Revere Little League White Sox by winning back-to-back Major League Championships in 2002 and 2013. Special recognition is hereby accorded to, and I'll read this one first, the name, and then all the future ones will just read the name. This Christian Acuna, thank you. This certificate of appreciation is presented by the City Council of the City of Revere, Massachusetts, on behalf of its citizens this 28th day of October in the year of our Lord 2013, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 237th. And it's signed by Ashley Melnick, our city clerk, myself as council president, and offered by Councilor John Powers. So, Christian, where are you? There you go, pal. Good job. David Diaz. David?
Mr. President, I'll take David.
Okay, cool.
He's unable to be here.
No problem. Dante DiCollegiero. Right, there you go, pal. Adam A.J. Bray. There you go, A.J. These guys like two-letter names. Emilio E.J. Leone.
Council, I'll take that one as well.
Now, do I have to say Justin J.F. Flores?
No. I'll take two, thank you.
David Diaz. There you go, pal. Good job. Brandon Barboza. There you go, pal. Danny Brenos. There you go, Danny. Good job. Peter Pagluca.
Right to your right, Mr. President.
Where's the big Peter? There he is, back there. There you go, Pete. Anthony Saya. Sawaya.
Right to your right.
Sawaya. Sawaya. I'm not going yet. Jeremiah Rodas. Chucky Braid, coach, co-manager. Emilio Leone, co-manager. And Tony Sawaya. There you go, guys. Good job. All yours, Pat.
I'm going to ask the coach, Chucky Braid, to say a few words, but I hope we all realize in the city how important it is when people get involved with children, whether it's youth hockey, Little League, Pop Warner, whatever it might be. Because by doing that, we are building individuals who will make this city and this nation a better place to live in the coming years. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce Chuck Braid.
Mr. President, Councilor Powers, rest of the distinguished councilors, thank you. Madam Clerk, thank you very much. I appreciate everything that Councilor Powers has done in the Revere City Council. Councilor Powers is right. Without these children, people like Councilor Powers, and most importantly, the parents, without you guys and gals, this wouldn't be possible. These kids work hard day in and day out. It's not just a 2 or 3 month adventure. I have them for 10 months. And they've not only become ball players, but they become part of my family. My wife, Patty, can tell you the same. We've grown friendships, family, and we're all together as one unit. So again, I want to thank Councilor Powers for this. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
And again, hopefully these kids will be back up here next year for the 3rd year. So thank you.
And in case anybody hasn't noticed, this is a championship trophy right here. Everybody look over here for a minute, and then I'll go a second here. Can you look, hold on for a minute? Here we go. Stay there. All right. If you look right here, this time the flash will go off. Here we go. Thank you.
The Zoning Subcommittee report.
Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning Subcommittee met this afternoon to discuss the proposed change to our zoning ordinances represented by item CZ-13-04, which is an ordinance regulating medical marijuana and substance abuse treatment centers. At this afternoon's meeting, we discussed the proposed ordinance, which is to place both of these types of uses into the TED districts as not by right, but by special permit. The the matter is before the full city council for a vote this evening. I don't know whether you feel it may be necessary to discuss, at least highlight some of the features of the ordinance to the public, because I think it will become, it will certainly be, if not now, it will be a item of interest to many people and who may not have paid attention up to this point.
If you wish to highlight it, Councilor,
I think that would be the best way to do it. Well, first of all, the zoning change will affect medical marijuana treatment centers, which have a certain definition, and I won't belabor it, but essentially is a medical center that would invite people and sell as a nonprofit various items that are related to, including actual cannabis type treatments. And also, the ordinance would amend what is presently allowed in the Highway Business District, which are substance abuse treatment centers, which are distinct from medical marijuana centers, and put them both into the TED district. I think it's important that people understand that there is an additional restriction, two additional restrictions really, regarding both of these uses. The first and most prominent is that they would not be allowable within 400 feet of a school, park, or residence, or religious structures used for religious purposes in areas of critical environmental concern. So that pretty well cuts down, even within the current TED districts that we now have, the availability of the TED for these uses, simply because many of these TEDs are well within those restrictions of the other uses that I mentioned, the schools, the parks, et cetera, the residents, et cetera. The other restriction, significant restriction, is that it would still be by special permit. In other words, the applicant, in addition to not being within 400 feet of those uses, other uses, and in addition to being allowable only in the TED district, would still have to come before the city council to seek a special permit. And essentially, the way our map is designed right now, most of those, almost, in fact, all of the potential areas are within the McClellan Highway area, entering East Boston, bordering on East Boston, and to the right or left there, and that's about it. So I think the other thing that the public needs to understand is that the state is forcing us to choose some district in which these treatment centers are permitted, and from working with the city planner and the planning board, who have, by the way, sent the next item, which is a communication we should probably be taking up here regarding this request, have determined, the planning board that is, has determined that they favor the change in the zoning ordinance as well. So that having been said, I hope that everybody who is out there who's concerned about this, their fears are allayed, that we've done pretty well, the best we can, to put this into a district where it would be appropriate, and most importantly, that it would not be inappropriate as far as our residents is concerned, our schools, our parks, et cetera. So I ask the council to I would ask the council to vote on this measure this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And I am going to rule that we take up the planning board's communication and include it in this package.
Calendar item number 5, communication from Eugene McKenna from the Planning Department relative to an ordinance regulating medical marijuana and substance abuse treatment centers.
Okay, are we ready, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. On the acceptance of the committee report, recommendation of committee report, all in favor? All opposed? Vote and so ordered. On a second reading, all in favor? All opposed? Vote and so ordered. On a third and final reading, all in favor? All opposed? Vote and so ordered. And engrossments. And roll call.
On engrossment and ordainment of CZ 1304, medical marijuana and substance abuse treatment centers. Councilor Arrigo.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Correggio?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Gino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hass? Yes. Counselor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Penta?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Reardon?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance is engrossed and ordained.
Mr. President,
Who's that? Council Patch.
I bring up reconsider not to prevail.
Under reconsideration, hoping not to prevail. All in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask for a suspension of rules to bring up the late communication and also include in a upcoming committee report. All in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered. Suspension of rules. Late communication.
Late communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of George Carnes and Son, Inc. as a licensed drain layer.
Council Guanasso for the Appointments Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, earlier this afternoon, I got a call from the Department of Public Works, Don Goodwin, in reference to this particular application. And because of the emergency in its nature, this individual is working with the DCR on an emergency basis, that they're correcting some situation that's going on, that they need this particular person's services. But prior and after that, I did review some of the applicant's reviews that came in, and he comes highly recommended. And I will say that 4 cities and towns recommended this: the city of Cambridge, city of Chelsea, town of Lynnfield, and the town of Salem, New Hampshire wrote favorable letters in reference to this individual. So he comes highly qualified. So I ask the indulgence of the council to vote favorably on this particular proposal. It's Mr. John Carnes and Sons, Inc., 8 Ledge Road, Windham, New Hampshire, as a licensed drain layer. I ask that you give a favorable vote for this particular individual. He comes highly recommended, and obviously, by the nature of the urgency for the DCR work to be done, we ask that this be voted on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. On the recommendation of the committee, roll call.
Shall the City Council confirm the appointment of George Carnes and Son as a licensed drain layer? Councilor Rigo? Yes. Yes. Councilor Correggio? Yes. Yes. Councilor Gino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hass? Yes. Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Penta?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Reardon?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes, the appointment has been confirmed.
Back to regular order of business. All in favor, all opposed, vote so ordered. Motions.
Calendar item number 6, motion presented by Councilor Patch that the mayor request the Department of Public Works and the city engineer to fix the drainage problem at the end of Sherman Street. Further, please rectify the situation due to the fact that the water does not drain and floods at the end of 71 Sherman Street.
Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sherman Street, there is no drainage at all on the street. It was designed that it would flow down the street to the end, into the culvert at the end in the field in the back. Well, it don't work. It was done, of course, when things were permitted that aren't permitted today. So I'm just, for the relief for the people who live at the bottom of the street, I just would like the city to design, fix it, and hopefully they can solve the problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm familiar with the area down there. It's been a constant problem of flooding. They need down there some engineering analysis down there to try to correct the flooding problem. It's a major problem. It's been going on for a while, and I will support Councilor Patch's motion. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 7, motion presented by Councilor Powers that the mayor request the superintendent of public works and the city engineer to investigate what appears to be a sinking service line running down the center of Atwood Street.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was down on Atwood Street the other day, and I
couldn't believe what I saw. There's what appears to be a service line running down the center of Atwood Street, and it's in the process of sinking. And I can't understand for the life of me why that is happening, because I put a motion in last year that the mayor designates someone when there's a street opening, whether it's a private contractor, National Grid, or the city of Revere, to make sure, particularly in the areas that are prone to flooding, where the area is very soft, to make sure that when these excavations are refilled, it's done with a suitable product, and also it's compacted to a 95% ratio. And then after that, within a few months after that, go back, make sure that it's compacted properly, it's not sinking, and seal it, as they do in other cities and towns. Because if you don't seal these excavations after they're compacted, you get condensation going in there, and before you know it, you've got a serious problem. And I think that is a serious problem down on Atwood Street, and I think it's a problem that needs to be investigated and corrected forthwith, because people shouldn't have to be driving down the street going into gullies as they drive home after a day's work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ganasso.
I represent the other half of the street at Atwood, and I agree and concur with my colleague. The basis is of the area, if it was to visualize what it is, it's marshland, and it's very susceptible to sinking. So that's why an extra effort is needed and required. Once someone digs up the area, they have to compact it as best they could and then do it again. I noticed, Mr. President, over the past couple of months, CDM has been doing a lot of work within our community. But they have a common practice within their workforce. They pack the hole temporarily, and then they said to me that they come back in 6 months and then they pack it again. Now that, in my mind, seems to be and appears to be the right way to do it, because I don't care who does the work. Every time there's a trench or something that's dug up, it always sinks. That's been the history of every single street within our community. So if we have to do it by ordinance, how come CDM can visualize and do this and make this part of their work effort? Why can't the others do that? Namely, the biggest culprit is National Grid. I mean, because obviously it's cost effective to do it the cheapest way, and they hire people from outside of the state, namely, to do some of the work, and it's hit and run. And what happens? They hit, they run, and we're left with it. And we're not doing it justice for our community. And so we got to come up with some sort of, maybe this should go to Public Works Subcommittee for discussion. I'd be glad to attend and give my thoughts on it. Maybe we should have CDM workforce or member officer come up and tell us what their game plan is, how we could make that part of our game plan, because this is every ward councilor's nightmare, trenches throughout the community, and it's every councilor at large's nightmare, because we gain these support from these individuals, so we have to show that we need to support them in times of need. And this is throughout our whole community. Our whole city is being handled this way. And so I think some sort of effort's got to be given on our half, too. Thank you, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? Vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 8, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor, in the interest of public safety, request Mass Highway to install a guardrail in the area of 182 North Shore Road. There have been several accidents in that area. Further, that the mayor direct the superintendent to replace the fire hydrant that was damaged due to one of these accidents.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I received a call the other day, about a week ago, from a constituent who lives in that area. These are the townhouses that were built on the northern side of 1A, just before you leave the Point of Pines. And there was an accident down there, and the fire hydrant was completely demolished. So I think when something like that happens, it's incumbent upon the city to replace that hydrant as quickly as possible, certainly in the interest of public safety. And then further, I think the mayor should be requesting Mass Highway to put a suitable guardrail in that area to protect any future hydrants that may be down there, and also to protect the residents down there, because it's a high-speed highway. Not everyone down there is adhering to the speed limits down there, unfortunately, and it leaves a critical area open for the residents down there. So I hope that the mayor will act on this, and I hope further that they will direct the superintendent of public works, the water and sewer division, to replace that hydrant as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. I would hope that the city attorneys chase the insurance company for that hydrant,
I
and
would
we don't
hope
have
so
to pay
also.
for it.
I would hope so also. It must have been quite an accident, so I'm sure we have the papers, whoever was involved in the accident, and go after their insurance company.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 9, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor direct the Suffolk County maintenance crew to clean the easterly side of Bay Road. It is littered with papers and debris.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that motion speaks for itself. I really couldn't believe what I saw down there the other day. All it would take would be the crew to go down there for one day with maybe a couple of weed eaters and a couple of rakes and clean that area up. People down there pay taxes just like anyone else in this city does, and they're entitled to have their streets clean. Thank you, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 10, motion presented by Councilor Patch. Pursuant to section 12.120, the council hereby requests that the City of Revere Retirement Board to provide the City Council with a detailed analysis of the full cost of a petition to provide survivor benefits to Catherine Walsh, the surviving spouse of John P. Walsh, late retired fire captain of the Fire Department of the City of Revere. Said alternative retirement allowance shall be calculated by the said retirement board based upon the survivor allowance as provided for by the first sentence of Chapter 32, Section 12, Subsection 2, Option C of the general laws. Had Captain Walsh been allowed to select Option C on the date of his retirement from the Fire Department of the City of Revere, and had he nominated his surviving spouse as his Option C beneficiary. The City Council requests that the Retirement Board return a cost analysis and vote within the 30-day time period allotted by the statute.
Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we all know, this has been before us for a few years now. We did vote on it, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago. But the ordinance has changed since, and the vote tonight is only to have the to follow the ordinance, the city ordinance. That it goes back to the retirement board, and they have to vote on it. They have to do analysis, and they have to vote on it, and it'll come back to us, and then we'll pass it on to the state delegate. They also have to vote on it. But in all fairness, I spoke to the chief of the fire chief today, Chief Doherty, and from the beginning of this fight for the Walsh family, he's been in favor of this, and he states that this is only a one-time deal. I know when we first voted for it, that was the understanding, but then it got some crazy figures were thrown out there, and we ended up, the council rejected it. Chief Doherty was going to try to make it here tonight, but he had another engagement. But he still, to this day, swears that this is the only cost to the city, and that if he has to come before us, if it passes the pension board, and comes back before us, I'm sure Chief Doherty will be here to explain his feelings on it. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if the family wants to speak. The family's here.
Mr. President,
Councilor Hess.
I'd like to make an amendment to this issue. Wording, the council requests and encourages that the retirement board. I just like to have and encourages. Last paragraph.
Friendly amendment, Councilor?
I kind of like it the way it reads, but if you want to vote on it, you can vote on it.
I understand, Councilor. My own thoughts on it, if I may, is that I think it's a little more emphatic by the council when we say it encourages, just than requests it. That's the only, and it just shows a little, like I said, emphatic, and say, we're not just requesting it as a sidebar. I want to make them know that we really mean it.
All right, I'll gladly go along with that. Thank you.
Okay, any other councilors speak on it? Okay, if I may, before you folks get up, I was originally involved in this also several years ago, and I was very disappointed when the council came back and withdrew their piece at the State House, and unfortunately I was not around when they made the vote, to the retirement board, but I encourage this. I think it's a fair thing to do for a firefighter that put their name on the line and their life on the line. And he didn't have that opportunity to do what most retirees have to do, or could do, at their particular moment when they're ready to retire. But unfortunately, he was on disability at the time, and he didn't have the opportunity to make his choice. And we are encouraging that the retirement board look at this very closely and come up with a number and allow us to move forward and take care of Mrs. Walsh. Sergeant Covino, name and address for the record, please.
Joseph Covino, 400 Revere Beach Parkway. Gentlemen, Madam Counselor, I'd like to share a quick story with you. It'll only take about 4 minutes of your time. This past weekend, I had the honor of attending the Marine Corps Marathon, assisting some disabled athletes running it in hand cranks. While I was down there, again, I had the honor of attending the World War II Memorial, which is thankfully back open. During my visit to the memorial, there was a honor flight group there. I hope you're all familiar with that. They're the World War II ladies and gentlemen who, a little longer in the years, they get to go down there and see their memorial. I would like to tell you a quick story of a man named Charles that I met. Charles survived the bombing of the Arizona. He went on to have a successful military career, and he was also survived Iwo Jima. When they went around, there had to be about 25, 30 of them. They went around and introduced themselves and their service. They all said what they said, and most of them in wheelchairs. They asked for them to just mention one name of a person that was no longer with them. I'm assuming that was probably one of their brothers who had passed away. When it came to Charles, they put the microphone in front of him and he said, "There's just too many. There's just too many." And my wife and I watched him as they went around, and you can see him thinking. You can see him going over things that happened in his life. Horrible things, I'm sure. And I said to my wife, "He's going." And he did. He started to cry. I elbowed my wife. I said, "Your father would want you to go over and hug him." And she's very shy. So I went up to him. I kneeled down next to him and I said, "Sir, excuse me. Don't think about how they died. Think about how they lived." And he patted me on the hand like I was his grandson and said, "Thank you." At the end of the ceremony, he searched me out to say thank you, and he asked me if she was with me, and I said, no, sir, I'm with her. He said that he was married 69 years. And what got him through it, this veteran, this warrior, love. He said, love your family and never, ever forget them. And he caused us to break down. When we walked out with him, I said, "Where is your wife?" you speak to her as she's in the present. She's home with the grandkids, and he needed his time away. But he said, just remember, all those in your life, the world would be such a better place if you can just remember and love your family. I grew up in Revere. I grew up in the projects for 17 years. I unfortunately did not have the benefit of a father. John Walsh, through marriage, became my surrogate father when I met him in the late 90s, early 2000s. He served proudly with the city of Revere. He died of a cancer called the firefighter's cancer. I now, as you know, serve the city of Revere. So does my brother. We hope that our city that we grew up with and we love very much won't forget us and will take care of us, will always remember us and love us. This doesn't need to go to any committee. All we're asking for is the retirement board to come back with a normal number that's not blown out. That's exactly what it will cost the city, nothing more. And then when the next hurdle comes up, maybe I'll have a better story to share with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarge. Anybody else from the family? Mike, Kath, Katie? No. Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry I didn't speak earlier. I have to say I had the pleasure of working with Captain Walsh in the fire department. He was a great firefighter, Marine, and it's unfortunate what happened. I think we should do whatever is necessary to try to assist the Walsh family. I'm here for them, and hopefully we can get something passed in a speedy way and get it resolved. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor. Anybody else? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, voting so ordered. And may I say before our two officers and the family leaves, you know, and I know it wasn't really blown up so much, but here are two guys that ran the marathon in April. And if anybody is as proud as two Revere policemen as I am, and I know the city of Revere, these two guys jumped in. I know Mike was there, Mike Mason jumped right in, came back with Walshy, didn't sleep for 38 hours. Joe Cavino was there back at the second explosion, if I'm correct, jumped in, helped the people that were injured. And that's why we gave them the commendations we did right after the marathon. And again, gentlemen, and your family should be proud of you. I know the city of Revere is, and we thank you very much.
Calendar item number 11, motion presented by Councilor Zambudo, that the mayor request the DCR to install no U-turn signage at 350 Revere Beach Boulevard, the St. George condominium, in the interest of public safety.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I don't normally put in these type of motions. I like to do everything by telephone and by work order. However, unfortunately, there is no U-turns allowed on the boulevard anyway. However, this area has become a really dangerous situation for the residents of the St. George. And people are making U-turns there. Somebody got hit not long ago right in the St. George area because of these illegal U-turns. So I'm hoping that signage will help. Even though there's no U-turns on the boulevard, perhaps a friendly reminder with signage will help the safety of our residents of the St. George. And I'd like to add Councilor Powers. I was remiss in not putting Councilor Powers on this motion, and I apologize for that. So I'd like to add him to the motion. But this is really in the interest of public safety, and hopefully the signs will wake the people up to the fact that they can't make a U-turn there. And I know the mayor has contacted the lieutenant to try to have some enforcement, to maybe give out a few tickets, and maybe this will really stop people from making this illegal, dangerous U-turn. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, vote and so ordered. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's an excellent motion. As a matter of fact, I had occasion to speak with DCR probably a month ago with regard to no U-turn signs, and their response to me was that if there's a solid yellow line, a double yellow line, it's illegal to go over that line. But apparently, I agree with Councilor Zambuto that the signs, I think, are much more effective. They're more visual. People aren't always thinking about the rules of the road when they make a U-turn, but if they see the sign there, it gives them a reminder. And I was successful in having a couple of those signs put down near Kelly's, near the Jack Satter House. But I think they should be, as they were a couple of years ago, before they did the rebuilding of the northern section of the boulevard. I think those signs should be back up there at certain intervals, just to remind people that it is illegal to make a U-turn. And I hope that the mayor will have some success speaking with DCR and Lieutenant Mills regarding this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, Councilor. Again, all in favor, all opposed? Vote and so ordered.
Calendar item number 12, motion presented by Councilor Janino that the mayor requests the superintendent of public works to notify the contractors responsible for the poor workmanship on sinkholes located at Ferragamo Way, Washington Ave, the 100 block, Sargent Street by the exit of the Whalen School, Washington Ave at Mountain Avenue, 270 Fenno Street, Page Street at Olive Street, and Mountain Ave at Essex Street. All of these need to be addressed, as we cannot allow contractors to be held unaccountable for not compacting these areas properly. Some of these have been brought up several times and are only getting worse.
Councilor Janino, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. These are all issues that I brought up as work orders and as other motions, weeks ago, and they're not getting fixed. And we make all these motions to replace, fire trucks and all these city vehicles, but we're damaging not only city vehicles, but people's personal vehicles that are going in these holes that you could literally lose a tire in some of them. They're dangerous and they're damaging, especially in a school area. If you have cars trying to avoid some of those big giant sinkholes by the Whalen School, you're putting kids in danger that are trying to cross the street over there. And, we are lucky that we have some really great contractors working in the city of Revere. I know over by me on Sigourney Street, they just did some storm drainage work. And the contractors did a beautiful job. They, did clean cuts. They filled it. It thankfully hasn't sank yet. And it really looks good. But then you drive by other parts of the city and you have these awful, unsightly holes that are really, really dangerous. If not just a pain, they really could put, people's cars and pedestrians in danger because they're such an inconvenience to our city. And I think it's really not fair that we should have to live with them. People pay taxes. This is one of the most simple things that we could fix. And I know it's been brought up several times tonight, but these particular ones are ones that I think are on areas that have traveled a lot and that are really, really bothering people, and especially me, that now they're starting to annoy me greatly. So I hope that it's an issue that we can get addressed and that they can be addressed promptly before, the winter comes and they just get even more worse and plows damage them. So, thank you.
Well, Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support Councilor Janino's motion. This has been a chronic problem for years in the city of Revere. I mean, I go to Everett and Malden. You don't see sinkholes and trenches like Revere. It seems like they take advantage of Revere for some reason. They don't come back. They don't repack the trench or whatever they're digging or reseal it. What I like to see is some kind of an ordinance put together that they be fined. They don't want to come back here, find them something, and they won't be allowed to do any contracting work. Thank you.
Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great motion by Councilor Janino. Unfortunately, the one on Sargent Street, I believe over the past, since they've done the work, I put like 2 motions in to correct this. And I even embarrassed Mr. Cameron here at National Grid several times over this. But deaf ears, nobody's listening. Unfortunately, that was a subcontractor that did that work. And, being familiar with this company as working details as a police officer, this, I know what kind of work they do, and I knew there was going to be problems. I mean, it's just terrible that the National Grid, for some reason, they just don't want to listen to us up here. Whether it's the double poles, they're holding up the most of the double poles, and it's these the holes they dig in. So hopefully, when we get Mr. Cameron here again, and maybe I'm sure the mayor will probably answer this request and send them a letter, we can get something done. But I know the residents there alongside the street have put up with it ever since they dug the hole, and you know, it's just not fair. They pay very high taxes in that area, and you know, it's something that should be done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Guanasso.
Mr. President, this is exactly what I was speaking of a couple of motions ago. This is the exact thing that we need. We need an ordinance in place. We need to have this addressed before the Public Works Subcommittee chaired by Councilor Powers. We have to go to the subcommittee. We have to invite CDM up and ask them what their protocol is. And so, therefore, after we create this ordinance, we set the criteria as to what, when you dig within our community, this is how you pack the hole that you've just dug. And so, and you give it the time frame that CDM workforce gives, 6 months. And I was thinking about it after I said it, as this motion was being read. They were doing the work on Lowell Street in May. Can you believe it? They came the end of September, beginning of October, and did it again. They did exactly what they told me they would do in May. And I just couldn't be more proud of a company coming into our community and saying, this is what we got to do. Why can't the others get this? Well, we know why they can't do it. The others could do it, but it's cost, it's finances. It's hit and run by National Grid. And again, we have to address it. If we have to put it in legal terms in an ordinance, this is the criteria, sir. You dig a hole, you fill it this way. Or else, if you agree to that, you can dig. If you don't agree to that, you can't dig. Now, given the fact that National Grid can come in and do all this work without a permit, we have to get some sort of collective agreement with them. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to enforce. Or else we got to stop preventing some of the work that they're doing. I mean, this is what we're living with. And Councilor Giannino put X number of names down. We could go almost in every street in our city and fault. You know, it's driving me crazy. I fought hard to get Revere Street done. Now they're digging it up and they're making holes. And I see it happening there. And it took months and years to get that finally repaved. And now they're digging it, and they're digging different particular spots. And no one, you know, we got to have a watchdog in place here. We have to have someone who's a watchdog for the community that goes out, once someone digs, this is how we fill the hole. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Penta.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly agree with the motion. And I think Councilor Guanasso basically said it right, that this is in every area of the city. I mean, I drive down my street onto Atlantic Road and State Road, and it's almost like, you know, you got a dip, and, you know, it'd be great during a snowstorm, you know, slide right up with a sled. But, I mean, it's really not funny because it's all over the city, but there is an ordinance in place. I think it comes down to enforcement. The ordinance is in place, and Councilor Guanasso said it. CDM must be following the ordinance. But there's a bond put up. If any work construction company comes in, there's a bond put up. And that bond should be left in place for a year or so. And when this is checked after a 6-month or 12-month period and say it's done efficient, then the bond should be released. But until then, it shouldn't be released. And this is on the books now. So I think enforcement, and I hate to say it, most of our ordinances need a lot of enforcement. But this is one that really affects you, especially when you get a whole street done, and all of a sudden National Grid comes in a month later. It's almost like tearing out your heart that they, you know, digging up a road. And 3 months later, it's like a slope. But yes, I think maybe the ordinance we have, we should bring in front of us in the subcommittee. I think it's a great idea, and tweak it. But we have to enforce it. We can change this ordinance to be the most strictest in the country. But if we don't enforce it, and, you know, and hold the bond that we can back charge these companies. And Councilor Corriggio said it too. If they don't abide by it, don't give them any more work. And we should tell National Grid when they come up here in their monthly meetings, they're not allowed to give these companies work, outside work, if they're not going to follow the ordinance. So I think, you know, we should look long and hard at this, and I think Council Powers' committee will come out with the right recommendations, and hopefully these things in the future won't happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, nothing's more frustrating to me as a city councilor than constantly repeating the same thing and having nothing get done. Council Powers and I was just discussing this. This motion, we put this motion in a year ago, maybe more. Maybe this is the third or fourth time we've discussed this issue. The problem is simply this. There is an ordinance. There are construction standards for compaction. There are construction standards for sealing when it's not being enforced. I know why it's not being enforced, because we have city employees who have other things to do. What we need to do is charge the people who dig to have a city employee come out and be present when the compaction is done. A trained city employee who knows the standards, knows how to enforce them, and not let them leave the site until they've done what they're supposed to have done under the standards. And charge them $200 or whatever it costs to have that employee trained and be on the site for that. It's the only way we're going to get this done, because if we tell these guys, fill the hole, we'll let you know when it goes bad, that means people lose their tires, they bump their heads on the top of their cars while we're waiting to get the bond enforced, while we're waiting for them to come back and redo these things. Let's get it done right the first time, have a city employee oversee it, and not let anybody even think of putting dirt on top of a trench that's been dug until there's an expert that the city has to oversee the project. It's really quite simple to me, and I've repeated this at least twice before the city council before. Whatever it takes, we need to do. Thank you.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Reardon's 100% right, and my other colleagues are too. I suggested probably over a year ago that you get someone from the construction trade that's a retiree, pay him per diem, whatever it might be, if it's $100 or $200 to go out and do the inspection to make sure that the right fill is going back into that hole, to make sure that it's being compacted properly, to make sure that it's being sealed properly, and whatever it might be, $100 or $200, $150 for that person's time.